as everybody before me, I thank everybody for being here. This prestigious conference, well organized, very friendly people. I also thank you for having it on Thursday, because it's the first time since the end of August that I have not been at the community college. So keep up the good work and get me out of there. Really, sincerely. I am going to keep it short because the Spanish have a great expression, el padre habla mucho, no dice nada. The father speaks a lot and says nothing. We trust that it's not applied to any other religion in this campus. I'm going to begin with what I've heard in 17 years as a campus minister, as a chaplain. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to invoke some people on the Feast of All Saints to my conversation. One is my Irish-American Catholic mother, who was totally intrigued by the Jewish neighbors in Riverdale, New York. And the curiosity she had towards other religion, why do the Rosenbergs do Saturday, why do we do Sunday, and we all had to go to university or else, is the background of how I got involved in this field. I've also taught at Mercy College in some department, was it history, religion, or neo-atheism? I couldn't figure out which. Here are some questions I have that have come to me. Hearing the whispers of the higher power of the wired generation. First of all, with all respect to the academics, let's keep it simple. Hearing the whispers of the HP. We're in the modern world. We don't do a lot of long terms. So what's the big deal? Asked the average student in their jeans, in a public college, in a Catholic college, in the backyard of our synagogues and our mosque, as regards to interfaith dialogue, if they ask at all. Can Abraham, Jesus, or the prophet, peace be unto him, pay my computer fees? Luther, wasn't he part of the Batman series that entertained one or two of my parents in black and white TV? God, he, she can't be that strong. Look at 9/11. Look at the Holocaust. Look at the Chelsea bombings in Manhattan, one of the richest cities of the world. And certainly, I can be spiritual and not religious. Some of our children have said that. Some of our brothers and sisters in our age group have said that. This spiritual quest sounds more exciting than spending time with the stated hypocrites of the church, in the choir, or having coffee in the synagogue, or forming a male clique in the mosque. They don't say it in anger and leave. They just drift out. These are not made-up questions. I've heard them. I'm a public representative of a tradition. And yes, in the days of pedophilia, that is a tricky tradition to stand for. With Pope Francis, it has improved. And so I'm going to play the game of Thomas Merton, one of the great spiritual figures of the 20th century. He said something that you know a person more by their questions than by their answers. You know a person more by their questions than their answers. So somewhere amidst this paper I was developing in Jerusalem at the Tantu Ecumenical Institute, I came up with 4 questions. Can we learn from a book? Can people of faith learn from a pagan culture? Can a figure like Jesus be an active part of the narratives of dialogue? And yes, what about Islam? Can we learn from a book? Can people of faith learn and thrive in a pagan culture? Can a figure like Jesus be an active part of the narrative of dialogue? And what about Islam? You can answer these questions better than I can. The book one hits me in the face because I teach in a college that prides itself on loving poor people, and therefore we do not need a textbook in every course. Part of that is community college land, and part of that is e-learning, and part of that is digital learning, and that conversation continues at Columbia, NYU, and some of the prestigious places. I still forbid students to Xerox copies of a book. I'm a published writer. I will lose money if they do that. But the attitude of a book and opening it is a challenge. And we are friends of the book. When I do Muslim, Christian, Catholic dialogue, the way I sneak in my good news is, dear companions of the book, dear friends of the book, straight from the prophet. Well, if the book means nothing, then what are we friends of? And now the punchline on this is North Americans buy more Bibles than any other country in the world, and therefore we're obviously the most Christian. Look at the headlines. The disconnect is evident. Can people of faith learn from a pagan culture? Whether it be in the book of Genesis and the three visitors in the Canaanite world, whether it be Paul dealing with the unknown God in Acts 17, whether it be the prophet Muhammad dealing with an urban area that had more gods than we have, but their gods were being used to make money for the different shops, the different tourist attractions. What can we learn from the pagan world? Probably a lot. That we can learn that it's okay to be multicultural diverse. It's okay to have friends in other neighborhoods. It's okay to struggle with who's going to be the president of the United States. Those questions are made often without religious input. And so we need to be in conversation with them. And yes, the wiring, the digital stuff can be helpful. I personally have found it very misleading at times. Can a figure like Jesus be an active part of the narrative of dialogue? That's a fancy way of saying, so what? I'm a Catholic priest of 37 years, and I believe in it. But an underemployed fisherman treated like a common criminal, a virgin birth, what sense does that make to the very tangible world of, if I can see it, I can believe it? I will not critique what's on the web. I will not critique what's in front of my smartphone. But Jesus, Son of God, all that language that comes, if you will, from the Greek world needs to be translated. We have to be very careful how we use media. I've been told by Muslims that, gee, it's okay, you can't make it to Mecca and Medina, and I'm a person who prays in the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, but, not there. But you can look at it on YouTube. That's like myself telling you, you can understand the 50 years of struggle between Lutheran and Christian dialogue that was commemorated so well in Lund, Sweden. You just go on YouTube and get a 2-minute video of the Pope saying nice things about Lutherans. We have ourselves some real challenges on having mature conversations between the faith traditions. And what about Islam? I do not want to get involved with that rhetorical issue, is Islam a religion of peace or war? I think every religion struggles with that. Certainly Christians in the Crusades. When I was teaching in prison, the Protestant group that was running the program demanded that I teach about the Crusades. So every religion has those conflicts. But I'm going to use a word here on Islam that I intend to be controversial with: racism. The average image of an Islamic person is dark-skinned. Now, I'm not going to beat myself up for being a white male North American in the superior, whatever we are. But I am going to say that that's an issue that needs to be dialogued about. The young people want to dialogue about it. They aren't very sophisticated, and if anything, they're angry. But this week, when I'm not on campus, God bless them, 2 Muslim students of a Baptist Christian professor are knocking on his door, electronically, of course, not face-to-face, and saying, gee, you're a holy man. Why won't you allow your club, your Christian club, to become part of the dialogue of Muslim, Christians, and Catholics? The Christians themselves are divided on it. They've created a new club, so there's one club that wants dialogue and the old club that doesn't want it. The questions are in our face. And now I'd like to show you what happens when you're a professional. I'm going to give you a Bible text, pass it around. You might have to share it. On that side, definitely only has 6. So just follow it. You might have a few more. Some of you will have enough, and some of you will have to share them. Okay. I do this as a challenge, and I saw a rabbi here earlier, and I'm a little bit nervous when I see rabbis because they spend more years in scripture study than we do. They spend 5 years. The average Catholic priest spends 4 years. But I have a problem. As a priest, as a minister, as a friend of interfaith dialogue, I get too used to it. Maybe we have enough for everybody. But it doesn't matter. You might have to share. The point is this. You can have fun with a computer to make that text come alive. Because I'm not sure about you, but I've heard the text I'm preaching on more than once. Tonight, I'm preaching on the good shepherd goes out to save the lost sheep. Mah. The shepherd, by the way, might have been a woman because it was a job for the ignorant and the small. So the good shepherd imagery might allow for ordination of women in some traditions. But all you have to do to make the word, play with the word in every tradition, Islam, Judaism, Christianity, is use that computer to make it different. I think that's what the kids are asking for on campus. Hey, this ain't so bad, but make it different. Make it come alive. Make it spicy. And so I emphasize the word Mamre because it was not a Jewish place. It was a Canaanite pagan shrine. I realize we don't have many shrines in our post-secular culture. The heat of the day. We who do institutional religious work are in a dying business. I have gone from a church that had 40% mass attendance on Sundays to 15%. And all of that can't be because of my sermons. That's happened in the last 37 years. Everybody knows that the fundamentalist Christians and the born-agains and the evangelicals in almost every group is increasing in numbers, and institutional religion is more than challenged. It's the voice at awake. Now, here's the other thing that I want to just conclude with, and then some conclusions. The last line, get 3 seers of the finest flour. That's a tough job for Sarah. We trust Abraham was holy. That meant 36 pounds to carry to these guests. I feel in entering the media culture, and it changes every week, we must carry a lot of ourselves in humility to enter. In real humility. Have the teenagers develop your web. Have them look at it. Yesterday I went to the Sheehan Center to see the Pope visiting Sweden, and they don't have any subway directions. So that's what outside eyes can bring. Questions. And for God's sake, for Allah's sake, for Yahweh's sake, let us not see if those questions fit into what we are comfortable with, but take us to the desert. My last observations are the results of the media age. And I feel like a bit like a tired prophet. Is the kids are suspicious, that students are individualistic, and there's a heck of a lot of promise. Suspicious of authority and all religion believing that they have the truth. These students have lived with divorced, publicized scandals, and war on their web as they eat a healthy meal. A student cried every night in my office before he went back to his home in the South Bronx because he wanted to know if his grandmother was going to be killed, his other grandmother. He came from Yemen. Only on Channel 25 could he see the news. And one of his grandmothers was killed. The other one was still living. He was respectful when we went to Metropolitan of Art because he had never seen a naked statue. And he knew he was in a different country because America did not condemn it. So those are the questions that are in our face. Let us not send them to the room. They are suspicious of the answers. Were we not at one point in our lives? Individualism. The days of authority at home, from the mosque, from the synagogue, from the church, are dead. We can condemn it, or we can hang out with their questions. The days of Spinoza, an embarrassment to the synagogue. The days of Galileo have been apologized by the Catholic Church. We have weaned individualism, and now we must live with it. And the third one is great promise. And I'll go to confession as a good Catholic priest and tell you I do not, what's that thing? Text, I do text, but the next one, Instagram, I haven't done that. I don't tweet. The Holy Father's holier than me, he tweets. So some student in Philadelphia summed it all up. Their spelling stinks, but he got it under 40 characteristics. We are, just a letter, millennials. Our faith matters. Our voices will be heard. We can make a difference. # God is winning. # Pope in Philadelphia. Reported by a gigantic international media corporation. Have fun asking the questions.